they're not locking.
Sorry, I
They're not
forgot to
locking a business or
hit
anything, but
recording.
they looked at it. So, you know, if the thing were to break down completely, which is I don't think likely, we could lease one, we could rent one, or we could have someone do it for us. I mean, there's ways of dealing with that kind of a situation, you know, which are far short of spending this kind of money when I don't think we've adequately examined the alternatives. I think the used market is probably the best thing for us.
George?
When we talked to David about what it would cost to lease or rent one, or to have another town do it for us, and the numbers were pretty high, as I recall. And I think we all kind of rolled our eyes at the numbers and thought, yeah, we can't do that. I can see in a special situation where, you know, we're getting by with the grader and it breaks on us and we bring somebody in to finish the job, but then we're all going to be right back here. And what if it breaks down in July after the new fiscal year started? Now what are we going to do?
Well, you know, we have lots of equipment in this town, like Dave does. We have some dump trucks and we have some plows and some other things. And, you know, those things, if any of them has a major breakdown, we're going to have to deal with the situation. That's just the way it is.
Okay,
No, but
Bob,
I'm talking about in
if I may-
terms of the scale of the
If I
cost.
may interject, I have here David's documents. To rent a road grader from United Rentals, it would be $12,770 a month, not including shipping. Estimate for shipping be in the ballpark of $1,000 to $1,500 each way. So that's $2,000 to $3,000 to get it here and get it back. Let's see, what else did he have in here? That was, okay, I have one rough estimate. It would cost the town $12,000 to grade all the dirt roads one time, an additional $7,000 to roll them. Just so you know, this estimate was done without seeing the roads and could very well change considerably. That's what he said about renting one.
Okay.
And we know that although the two towns nearby have relatively new ones, during the season, they will be using them. So we will probably not get them.
The town of Pelham has their grading done by an outside person. They pay them by the hit. So they don't own a grader. They're actually paying somebody to
Well,
grade.
then what was it, Leverett and New Salem? There were two of them that were
Leverett and New
specifically
Salem,
mentioned.
But
as
I'll just say
having-
this, that if we do lease this thing, the leasing cost, I think, according to the document in front of me, is about $8,000 a month.
No, according to him, to rent it, well, not leasing, but to rent a grader. It's
I'm talking about the
12,000.
leasing cost as he's proposing to lease it.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
George,
but that lease is a lease to purchase.
Okay.
Is what it is.
Let me finish what I
So
want to say.
we pay the lease for 5 years, and if that one, let's see, includes $12,000 government leasing program, monthly payments, the first payment is $12,000, which trade-in would cover it, then 59 payments at, you know, one payment monthly, and the final payment is $1 and the town will own it.
Okay,
Yes, that is a good idea as opposed to buying it outright if the numbers work.
I would like to finish what I was going to say, please.
Go ahead, sir.
That is that if it's $12,000 to rent a machine for a month and it's $8,000 to monthly payment if we lease it, that's not that different. That's a much shorter distance than $12,000 rental. So I just want to make that point. And that is only in a case of an emergency, because I think that the grader that we have can be kept for a couple of years and then we can find a used one. And that would be a more prudent path for this town. That's my view.
Nate, you look like you may be going to say something.
Well, I honestly think both George and Bob make valid points. I think the concern about the cost of even a used vehicle in 2 years could be extreme. But I also agree that $16,000, you can get that thing going. You know, I do think that, you know, I live on a dirt road, so I'm a little biased. You know, I'd really like to have that maintained properly. There's some serious erosion and drainage issues. And, you know, my road as well as Cooleyville Road is going to get impacted by, they're going to start logging soon. And the trucks, there's going to be logging trucks going in and out of Town Farm Road and Cooleyville Road. And that's going to do some serious wear and tear on those roads. So we have to be prepared for that. There, you know, that could happen any time now. So, you know, honestly, I think both of you make valid points. So it's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
let me just make one small point, and I'll just briefly, Ellen. That is that Dave has told us, and Steve before him, and that we have a problem with our roads because the base, we're down to the base in a lot of our roads. So that's why I think the Chapter 90 money increase is very useful for us in terms of capital plan. We did provide the highway department with some money from capital last year to repair some of the base, to do some reconstruction of some of our dirt roads. But I think that now that this Chapter 90 money has been increased, that we could actually fund that through that Chapter 90 instead of through capital. So I think that's another way to make use of this increase in Chapter 90, other than saying paying a lease on a new piece of equipment. So just bear that in mind too.
Excuse me, Bob, but I don't think that this year that money is being funded out of capital because we haven't had a capital request for it. But now, Michael, do you have anything to say?
I'm kind of with Nate here. It's I can see both sides of this. It's a lot of money, a lot of money.
I think next year, one of the things, Nate, am I correct that next year you might come in for paving the school driveway?
That's the plan.
Okay, and that's another big hit next year.
And if anybody can predict what costs are going to do in the next year or so, they're.
But even the 100,000 that we were asked for this year is
I'm just saying, in terms of whether this piece of equipment is going to be double the cost in a year or two.
We don't have any idea.
Nobody has any idea. How much of it's made in Canada.
George?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a question, Dave. Dave needs to answer the question about how much of the Chapter 90 money he really needs. I'm looking at the expense report, April 10th, and he spent 38% of the $132,000 we have. So right now he has 82,000 remaining. And the other thing I was going to say, one of the things I was saying was, if we can fund it through Chapter 90, if it turns out we don't use all of our Chapter 90 and we can fund it through Chapter 90, then maybe we can do the math and he can say, I never spend 50,000 and the lease is 80,000. So maybe the finance committee considers putting 30,000 in the operating budget for 4 years. It still saves us a lot of money on our tax rate versus getting a loan. I do know that the money he doesn't spend in Chapter 90, Bob and I discovered last week, would fall into free cash. So that money isn't lost when we don't use it. So is our understanding. But I think David has to tell us, would that work or not? That's really the tipping point for me. I see this as an opportunity. Funding highway equipment through Chapter 90 does not directly affect the tax rate. And so on the finance committee, that's a real plus.
Just going back to this issue about the Chapter 90 money, as Ellen pointed out, we don't have an article to provide money for road foundations or base this year like we did last year. So I think that a good way to fund that would be through the Chapter 90 program, so that we can invest in our dirt roads, because the grading has to be done with the cream that's on top of the mixture, and what's below it has to be good and solid and hard and well drained. And that's what we're trying to provide the highway department last year when we had a capital article for road repairs, and we still have money in that account, but he's taken some of that money and spent it. But I think he could be using this Chapter 90 for that. That would save us from doing another article for such as what we did last year. And I think that would be a good financial arrangement for you.
In both these points, just if I may real quick, this is where we need David.
Yeah.
He can tell us these things, confirm what Bob said, confirm what I said, and then tell us to what extent can we use Chapter 90 money.
Okay, Gabe has raised her hand. She popped in again. She's been listening.
Guys. I just want to clear something up. Chapter 90 does not go into free cash at the end of the year. I don't know where that came from, but what happens with Chapter 90 is it gets carried over to the next year. So if you have 300,000 this year in Chapter 90 and you only use 200 of it, 100 goes over and gets added to next year's allotment. So it stays in Chapter 90. to be used for whatever. It doesn't stay there indefinitely because the state approves your projects. They're going to want you to do projects with that money. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Oh, well, you know what? If I may, that makes
Mhm.
sense, because when I look at the expense report, we've got 3 Chapter 90 lines, 23, 2023, 2024, fiscal 25, and
Yep.
they expended $97,000 out of, I assume that on this report, the report that
Yep.
Gail
Yeah.
puts out, that's
Yep.
spending for the current year, right?
Yep.
So then he's expended 96 out of the 23, 132 out of the 24, and 50,000 call it out of the 25. So he's expended 150 and he's expended over $280,000. That sounds crazy to me.
Right, but it's cumulative.
Oh, it is. Okay, so that's not just in the current fiscal year.
Right. And so I don't have the report in front of me, George, but does the older years, do they have balances?
No, they don't.
Okay.
23 and 24 both have zeros, and 82,000 is what's remaining of 132 for 25.
Right. So if he doesn't use that 82 this year, and he might not, he has a new allotment and he has a small, I think Shutesbury is getting 20 some odd thousand extra this year or 32. I've got my towns confused. But we just got notice from the state on what every town is getting in addition, and it's not big dollars like it was in the past. But if he doesn't use that 80 something, that could be approved by the state for the payment on the machine. But he only gets, I think you guys get only a couple $100,000 every year.
180 last year, wasn't it?
Well,
Yeah.
according to the allocated, the budget
Yep.
is 132,000.
Right. You don't get, Shutesbury does not get a large sum of Chapter 90 money. So that's the drawback. I mean, using it for the payment's a great idea, but you're not getting $300,000-400,000 a year in Chapter 90. You're getting a
Yeah.
smaller amount. And doing a road, even a small piece of the road, that'll chew that up.
It
Especially
does look like we've been
very
spending
expensive.
all of it too.
Yeah.
F-23 and 24s are all gone. So
Right.
That's
So
the
I
thing.
just wanted to clarify that point.
If I may
Appreciate
ask a question, is 90 used for both dirt roads and paved roads, or just paved roads, or just dirt roads?
They have to be they have to be major roads. They can't be side roads and stuff like
So
that.
so for the most
Chapter
part,
nine-
they probably can't be the dirt roads.
Farm road, yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
No. It's usually Chapter 90 is usually main roads, state numbered roads, stuff like that, because that's what the state wants you to maintain for them.
the roads that connect towns.
Correct. Yep.
Doesn't the state want us to maintain access to the logging roads that the DCR uses?
That I can't answer.
Good question.
I don't have that depth of knowledge.
Because they're putting that, we're gonna have a logging crew coming out on Cooleyville Road and Town Farm Road that the state is going to be accessing, and we're gonna have logging trucks.
Not in mud
on those
times.
two roads.
I think that's two separate divisions, and I don't know if they
Right.
are concerned about that with each other. That would be a reason you'd want your equipment. So,
But you don't want to do that in the spring. Is that going to happen in the spring?
I don't know. It was supposed to happen 6 months ago. I was told as soon as Maura Healy lifted the moratorium on logging on state ground, it was going to start. And so that was over 6 months ago,
mhm.
but it hasn't. But
Has she lifted the moratorium?
yeah, that was like over
Well, there
6
was
months.
opposition to that project, wasn't there?
There has been. Eric,
Doctor?
yep, he met with Joe Comerford, and they had some agreements on budding property, but they're going forward. I mean, you're not going to stop those logging operations, unfortunately.
I know, but in Maine, the log trucks can't run in mud season.
Yeah,
That's just the law. I mean,
Yeah.
should have a similar law down here.
yeah. So anyway, I appreciate Bob looking into talking to Amherst Welding and getting some, he's not making it up. the 16,000. He's not making up those recommendations. I appreciate that. I think that's, part of me thinks that that's what we should do. I'm a little hesitant to be, advocating for buying a brand new John Deere. There's a right to repair. John Deere's pretty awful to have to maintain and repair that vehicle. You can pop a tire on a brand new grader just as well as you can pop a tire on an old one, and those are going to be probably more expensive. I don't know.
Well, I think the because of the age of the equipment, finding a tire for it out in the market's not going to happen. And I'm not tire, right? We're talking the wheel, aren't we?
Oh, no, he's talking about
He said
tires.
Tires,
He got a
that
price.
they could not be repaired again.
Right.
And I
Right.
assume he was talking tires.
Yeah.
So basically you're saying if he loses another one, we have a spare, but once we use that up, the next one, it totals the vehicle, if you will.
I thought he said this, even the spare can't be repaired.
He said that you can't, because they get the tire repaired if there's a hole in it. But there's
Yeah.
only so many times you can repair it. I think that's what he was saying.
Yeah,
Right.
and it's at its end. In other words, you can't repair any of the tires again. So if one goes, you've got to replace all of them. And he said it was in the triple zeros
Thousands, yeah.
of the cost, at least, for each one.
What?
Yeah, he said it was over $1,000, $1,000 to $2,000 or $1,000 and over for each
Yeah,
tire.
okay. Yeah.
Well, they're huge.
But you're saying if one tire goes, it has to replace all of them?
All just like with a car, they recommended.
True.
You have to
that's
replace
true.
one tire. This is what
Right.
he said.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
not
right.
going to go any further than that.
Okay, that's what
He's
he said.
very clear on that.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to call the vote if that's okay with you, Ellen.
Oh, that's all. Oh, yeah, sure.
We have a motion.
Okay. So we're going to vote not to recommend. Your motion is not to recommend.
Well, I made a motion to recommend repairing the existing.
Well, that would be not to recommend the purchase. We can't
Okay.
say what he's going to do if he doesn't get it. All we can say is, do we want it?
Well, I want to fund the repair, so.
Can I just ask one other question?
Go ahead.
And then I'm ready to vote. Do we know what's in the pipeline as far as other requests for the next few years? We know the parking lot. And we know we're still going to talk about the dam.
I have no idea because I don't know what came across on the requests. I have never seen that. I don't even know where the documentation is. Well, I'm assuming Gabe might have it, but
But don't we, this is my first year on this committee, don't we have a schedule of replacements?
we used to. Well, of course, it's a guesstimate. You've got to realize that on any schedule of replacements. But also, we are unable to download it. Or once we download it, we can't print it
I thought
out.
Bob had sent it along. Didn't you send it along, Bob?
No, I didn't. I've been looking for it.
But I just want to say there's one other item that's coming down the pipeline, if you will, and it's the pump truck, and Lenny wants to repair it, and it's going to require a significant investment, so that it'll be a capital expense when he does the repair to be rebuilding it, because he's seen the market for these trucks, and it's sky high. So he wants to repair. He thinks it's worthwhile to repair it, but it's going to be, a significant amount of money, so it'll be a capital request.
And it'll be out of
Significant
service?
being, any feel for how much?
I think that he said that the cost of a new one, I'm just
I
relying
don't
on
want
imperfect
repairing
memory,
it.
but the cost of repair was like 150,000 and the cost of new was like 800,000 or something like that,
And there's a waiting list. The wait for a fire truck is years.
Oh, yeah. It's been bought by private equity, yeah.
I'm sure. Okay, so no,
Well, that's coming up anyway.
Your
It's coming
request
up.
was to fund a repair, but a repair, I don't think qualifies as a capital item.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay, well, I'm not sure about that.
so that's why I'm saying we will treat your.
Well, actually, I might be able to confirm that because in that handout from the
Yeah.
meeting we went to last week for capital planning, what constitutes capital planning?
That's what I'm looking for in my file.
What qualifies? Tangible asset,
Oh.
projected eligible borrowing, real property acquisitions, infrastructure improvements,
Yeah, and it's,
purchase or lease of vehicle, planning, engineering, bulk purchases, building construction, equipment furnishings, land acquisition, parks and grounds, and study and designs. Nothing about repairs.
yeah.
Or
Because
It said
if you-
maintenance somewhere
Oh, did I say maintenance?
No, you didn't, I don't
towards the
think.
top, towards the beginning.
Tangible assets, eligible borrowings, real estate acquisitions, infrastructure improvements. I don't see maintenance here. Purchase
No.
lease of vehicles, planning, engineering, bulk purchases, building construction, equipment furnishings, land acquisition. No, I don't see the word
Okay.
maintenance.
No,
Okay, sorry.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right. But I
I
don't
was
see it here.
speaking fast.
Yeah, I was talking fast.
Yeah,
Try not to waste
I
time.
don't think it would be, repairs wouldn't be, it would be in your budget. I mean, the finance committee would have to handle putting it into his
Recommend the
budget,
funding.
not us.
Right.
So therefore, what you are asking us to do is to vote down a purchase of the new grader.
Right.
And then it'll be up to the capital planning and David to handle that. Now, if you would like, we could schedule another meeting and have him come in the hope that he can answer some of the questions that have come up tonight.
I think we've already seen him twice, and we know this issue pretty well.
Well, no, because people said they'd like to hear from him about certain things, and I did not take down, I admit. Okay, one of the things was how much Chapter 90 money he needs. That was one
Yeah,
of the,
does that work for him? Or would that put him in a bind and he wouldn't be able to maintain the roads? I
Right.
think it's a pretty simple question.
I agree with
He
you.
might say, oh, it's a bad idea. There's no way I can do that. But he didn't say that in the last meeting.
I know he didn't.
And when
He
I
said
asked him, he didn't, he didn't really push back on that idea. So I'm under the impression it might work. I'm not saying, I know that it might not work, and I understand that. But I want to know. I don't want a gray area here before I vote.
That's why I was going to say, we should have him in, or I'll get a hold of him and ask him to write a response. Was there anything else we needed to have him reiterate or say, or ask? Nobody can think of anything.
Well, we already asked them, right, if this repair goes through, how long it'll last. He doesn't, he can't
wouldn't
give us
know.
an answer.
Well, you have no idea. You have no way
Yeah.
of knowing anything you repair, how long it's
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
last.
no, I know, it's always the same.
Except like Bob's a builder, so he would probably know if he did a building repair, how long it might last.
Yeah,
But,
well, with cars and equipment, we all know the story. You never know, of course. You never know that a new machine's not going to have a major problem. So, maybe you have less of a probability with a new machine than you would with an old piece of equipment. But yeah, like Nate said, we could have a brand new Deere thing. Now, with Deere has a very, very bad reputation for customer service now because these machines are so sophisticated and technologically so that farmers have been writing about they have a broken down tractor. And then Deere says, well, we'll be down in 2 weeks, and they're trying to bring in their crops or something. That's the kind of stuff that people run into with some of these modern machines, which is really a reason not to buy a modern machine. That's one of the reasons why. And Tim mentioned this, that buying used is in many ways more practical because you can work on them. And local guys like Amherst Welding can work on them. And you don't have to go through the dealer because Deere is consolidating its dealerships so that now we have United Ag, which is based in Burlington, Vermont, which is the only Deere dealer within, driving or can service the whole district of Western Mass from outside of the Boston area. So it's same with CAT. These corporations are really putting a squeeze on people to buy their stuff. So that's one of the reasons I like the idea of repairing our tractor. And Dave agrees with that we have a Deere tractor that is pre-modern digital technology that this needs somebody that knows how to work on it. And he wants to do that. And that's going to be a project for this coming year. But anyway, that's one of the reasons I'm keen on my proposal, which is for us to repair the existing machine. And I did do some work, and I did talk to Tim, and I did look into it.
I will get a hold of Dave, if it's okay with all of you, to find out how much of the chapter money he feels he's going to need. And then we will have to have another meeting to vote. Well, we got two choices. Right now, we have a question on the floor with a second. So if you want to continue this, we're going to have to vote this one down and entertain another motion next week. Because we
Hey, the
can't
chapter 9
end the
money,
subject. We can't end the subject with an open motion.
right?
No, we
So
haven't
let's
been-
make a point that the funding of this is Finance Committee's business.
Well,
not
it
ours.
is, but the question has
So
come
why are
up.
we going to do
But
work?
over and over again, I've been heard from you all that you don't want to make a decision, yes or no, until you know that answer to that question.
That's
I
true
want
for
to make a
me.
decision. I put a motion on the floor, so, you know.
Okay,
we got
well,
to
we'll
vote.
vote on the motion.
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor of not purchasing the grader?
Arvanitis, nay.
Groves, yay. Oh, Broad, sorry, I cut in front of you.
Wait a minute, I'm just, Bob, don't you want to vote yes?
He
I want to
did.
vote,
He
I
said
want to vote
yay.
yes on this not buying it,
He
right?
did.
Yeah, okay, so we have a no and a
I don't
yes.
want any double negatives going on here.
Yeah, okay. I'm still waffling, but I think I'm gonna vote no, or yes, I guess. I'm gonna go vote with Bob.
Okay. Nate,
Yeah, this is a very tough one, and I'm with George. I kind of want to know more. I want to know the terms of the lease. If something happens, like through how many years of the lease, something breaks down, like if we're gonna have to front the bill for getting John Deere, that could be a very expensive thing. I don't know, buying something used in another 2 years could be, still 300,000 plus. I don't know. This is a tough one. But I'm probably going to have to say nay. Sorry, George.
Oh, that's okay.
okay.
No, that's
And
what I voted, nay.
When you
No,
say,
but wait a minute now,
Oh.
get it straight. If you
Sorry.
vote
Yay
nay,
means you want to
vote
do the
yes.
repair.
Right.
You don't have to apologize to me. I understand and respect
No.
everybody's position. Believe me.
Okay. So you're voting to
To
go
not-
along with the motion.
The
The motion is not to
purchase.
buy
I vote yay
Yeah.
on this.
on the motion.
Not to buy.
Okay.
Not to
Okay.
buy.
Yeah. Okay, well, I vote to buy, so therefore we still have turned down the request.
Yes.
Okay.
So the finance committee will have to take up how to fund the repair next.
Yes.
That's not right, Bob. That's not in the operating budget.
it's not, it would have to be a transfer out of
Well,
reserve.
not for next year.
Well,
Is
we
the
have to close the
budget still
budget.
open?
Well, we don't want to do
Oh,
a
yeah, it's
FinCom
open.
reserve
Oh,
transfer
But I
for
mean, the
that.
budget, it'll be like a transfer from reserves.
Yeah, we'll
Next-
talk about it. Well, I'm just going to put down that we're going to talk about it on Tuesday.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Now we are time to talk about the Lake Wyola Advisory Committee's request on the dam. And George, you were going to check on the money that had been already appropriated.
Yeah, so I do have some information. I want to pull up
Please.
the email conversation I had with Mark Rivers. So
Well, you had per conversation with Gail too about those three budget items.
I did, yes. So
That's what I want, like. to
yes,
know.
okay. So what Gail told me was the $35,000 for permitting has to be used for permitting. And so I reached out to Mark and said, I'm thinking of asking for a warrant article to transfer the 35,000 from permitting for the dam to the dam project. There's $10,000 for the dam project. This would make 45,000. And there's, a broader range of things you can spend the $45,000 on if we do that. His response to me was the actual construction phase, the $150,000 phase of this project isn't going to happen until the fall of 26,
Mhm.
which means we have a whole nother fiscal year. And he is concerned we won't get the grant. And he said that the $35,000 would work to fill in where the grant, if there was a vacancy because of the grant, the 55,000, we're definitely getting 13,775 from CPA. It's got to be voted on town floor, but that's the recommendation. And then to 55,000, there's, I do the math, there's a $48,000 gap or something. The grant should cover it. I know I'm being redundant, but if it doesn't, we'll have $35,000 to apply to that gap. And then we'd only have to come up with like 8,000 as a town to get the first phase, the planning, design, permitting phase. So basically, I wrote back to him and said, well, then it doesn't make sense at this point to transfer the $35,000 out of the permitting. We can always do that in a year from now because the construction isn't even going to happen. So basically, that's where we are. It looks like we've got the first phase, $55,100 for design, permitting, and construction. in hand, construction planning, excuse me. We have that pretty much covered. This is, I mean, the only thing I can tell you is this project has to move forward, right? I don't know that anybody thinks that it's a good idea to say no to this. I don't, maybe I'm jumping the gun, but,
Okay.
and we will have to, in a year from now, finance committee is going to have to think about the funding. And, hopefully we'll have a conversation with Mark. Hopefully there's a grant for that. Hopefully there's CPA for that. And, if we get the grant for the first phase, then we've got $45,000 available to start for the second phase, which is 150.
But I think the point you're making, George, is that we have it covered for this year. We don't need anything this year. Next year, we're going to need to figure out how to finance the construction phase of the project for FY27.
If we
Okay.
approve the project.
Yeah, okay, if I may interrupt. Okay, I have the letter from Mark in front of me. Okay, so where you're looking at is funding $41,325. That was the 55 less the CPA,
Okay,
75%. And you're saying, and because it is for design, permitting, and construction, but the 35,000 was only for permitting?
yes.
Are we going to run into a problem then if we use it for design?
He seemed to think that 35,000 could be applied to that first phase. That's what he said to me. He said so he left me with the impression that we didn't make the transfer. And when I wrote back to him, he never, I said, just, he didn't argue with me when I said I'm not going to make the transfer. So, he didn't question it. So.
Okay. So we're
was
looking
hoping to
at,
hear back
now
from
there
you.
was a third number too. There was the 35 and the 10, and there were three different.
Oh, yeah. The other one is the drawdown. It's the
Okay.
Lake Wyola drawdown. And,
That's
they need that all the time. It had a big balance a couple months ago, but the most recent report, it wasn't quite as big. So it looks like they expended some. I don't know. And that's permitting. I believe I can pull up the report.
I don't think
it's called
drawdowns would be.
Lake Wyola
Drawdowns-
drawdown permitting.
Yeah, drawdowns would have to be permitted, but I don't know that a drawdown as such would be covered under a funding to permit. I don't know. I'm just.
No, I think that's the name of the line is
Yeah.
drawdown permitting.
Oh,
I think that's the
okay.
only thing they need to do, right? Once they get the permit, then they can just open the gate.
Yeah.
In other words, they don't have to hire, they don't have to spend more money for other things.
Right. Okay. So okay. So if we have the 35,000, then we're looking at basically $6,325, assuming that 35,000 is a round number.
Yes, right. And then the finance, he'd have to come to the finance committee for how to fund that.
Yeah,
Maybe a
because
special town meeting,
doesn't-
maybe a FinCom reserve transfer.
So really, we don't need a motion on this then, according to what you've said.
Well, we still need to approve it, do we not?
Yeah, we can. Yeah. Well, yes, we have to approve it. So would you like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the dam project.
Yeah. Okay.
Is there anything else I need?
Who seconded it, please?
Bob,
Bob. And we have two visitors here listening in. Is there anything you gentlemen, while we're discussing this, would like to say?
Thanks.
Yes.
No, I'm just not in, I don't attend capital planning meetings enough, so it's just nice to hear more directly what goes on. Thanks.
Okay. Frank, how about you?
And I'm same thing. I'm just here to
Okay.
talk about.
it's your idea of fun?
Huh.
Yeah, right. No, we just want,
wanna
if you
talk
had
about
anything
fire
to say,
safety.
we would have appreciated it, but thank you for listening in. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the project. And of course, we know also it's gonna cost us a lot more money next year. Anyway, so are we ready to vote, gentlemen?
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
Arbornitis, aye.
Broad eye.
Grove's eye.
Von Cope, aye.
McKay, aye. Okay, so that's unanimous. Okay. Now, you all received the information on some pretty heavy duty repairs or replacements that have to be done in the fire towards fire detection, et cetera, here in this building. The gentleman was in last Thursday. And apparently it was like oh, when I saw this, it was like, yuck. And it's substantial amounts of work, which I'm not terribly surprised at because I know we've had a problem last year between the fire and the elevator, because the elevator is legally supposed to stop, at the floor where the fire isn't. And for some reason, it would keep running. So I don't know if that is involved with this thing or not. But obviously, we have problems with the alarms and the detection. And the one quote we have is for $8,600 and roughly $8,650, let's say. And basically, at this point, at least we have one quote. So with one quote, we could establish, or you as the finance committee could say, we vote up to 8,600 because we have this one in hand, and it therefore would be covered because anything higher than that could be kicked out. Anything lower than that could be accepted. And therefore we've covered ourselves. This is a pretty heavy duty thing. I don't know if the state has the power to actually come in and tell us to get out and lock the doors. I wouldn't be surprised if it becomes a fire hazard, danger of not, I don't know, but it scares me as somebody who works here to know that there's problems with the fire detection system. Bob, question.
Yeah, I just wanted to.
Oh, wait a minute, I need a motion in a second before we can discuss taking care of this problem.
Okay. I guess I'll make a motion that we approve this, we recommend this, or approve it, or whatever the word is.
I second that.
Discuss
Who
it.
seconded it, please?
Nate Longcoat.
Nate, okay.
Yeah, I assumed that Frank knew something about this and maybe he can give us some information.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, there's been a conflict, thank you, with the fire system and the elevator system.
Mhm.
And the new town administrator, the previous town administrator, listened to one person and never brought them both together. So going forward, the buildings committee will be involved in all these types of inspections. But it's been 2 years this has been going on.
Mhm.
And I apologize, we've been trying to get you our buildings assessment spreadsheet out, and you're going to get it within a week. We've been working twice a month now for 2.5 years, taking inventory, and we found that the old part of town hall does not have sufficient fire and needs to be upgraded also. So I was concerned that a contractor came in and said, you got to do this right away. Here's the money, because I'm a 3-bid person, and what I like to do is look at 3 bids. Jeff Quackenbush was not at last night's meeting. He's been running the library buildings committee, and he will know who's doing the fire suppression system over there. So we might be able to get a second bid on this to find out if 8,600 is high or low. But what we talked about last night is we still have to upgrade some heat and fire things that aren't in the old part of the town hall that we feel is a safety factor. So we'd appreciate if you approve this money. And if we add on to it down the road, we can spend some of our money that we have banked in our account and then ask for the replacement next year in a warrant in the next town meeting or a special town meeting to replace the difference. But basically, I don't know, I wasn't around. I don't know when that addition was put on. Do you know, Bob, what year that was addition?
It was quite a while ago. That was part
Yeah,
of.
so I think, I'm gonna use, it's kind of like analog and digital, and it might be an analog system. And
You mean the elevator edition or the back?
the elevator edition, yeah. So when they
Yeah,
put
the
the
elevator
fire,
edition.
then they put the
That was-
fire suppression system, if it's like 15 or 20 years old, it needs to be upgraded. It's,
It's over 20 years old for sure.
it's over 20 years old. So it's probably an old analog system, and now they're all digital and they're computer based. And there's a lot more integrating. And when there's problems, they hook a computer up and they make the elevator system talk to the fire system. And I think that's the problem right now, is that they're not talking to each other. And I didn't have a chance to talk to this alarm company today. Some of the line items on the last 2 line items of the quote, we thought we're looking at to do it right away and do overtime. So, it might be coming cheaper. I don't know. But I wanted Jeff Quackenbush's opinion, and we're meeting in a couple weeks on this again. And I can talk to him, and we're going to try to see if we get another company in to at least, we know we're looking at apples and apples, not apples and oranges, and running into this. But we appreciate the capital planning to put it on a warrant so the cash could be available. Because my understanding is it probably won't pass inspection next time, so they might have to turn the elevator off, or we might have insurance problems with not having a fire protection
Mhm.
system.
I was gonna ask you, Frank, if I may,
Yeah.
what's the urgency on this? I mean, this is gonna be okay to fund through town meeting?
I think so, yes. I think we passed inspection, they got the thing working. Lightning power orders, could change that tomorrow. But my understanding is when we have the next inspection, this is when we're gonna have the problem. So the buildings committee feels like we should at least get 2 bids, 3 bids to see,
Right.
to
Now,
see.
this will be an upgrade system.
Yeah. And Jeff Quackenbush is already working with the contractor for the new library. So we have access, probably, it might be the same company, but Anna Cook, who's also a contractor, gave us a lead last night, and we're going to access them next week. So I'd like to at least, if it's a rush job, I'd still want to have 3 bids.
Okay, I don't know, Gabe, if you're still looking, under procurement, how many bids do we have to have on something of this size? Oh, maybe she's not listening. Because the state has set, you have to have this for
Yes.
this and this
And it's
amount.
around $10,000 is what I
Is
remember.
it, or has that
Yeah,
gone
that
up?
sounds
I'm not
right.
sure. That's what, I took training a zillion years ago. So I don't remember any of it, and it's
The
changed.
last few things we've been doing has been like, it was $10,000 because we had to look at replacing a roof structure, and it was 20, came in at 20.
Yeah, I
We have
think you're right, though, that it's still prudent to get more than one bid.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree with you entirely.
Always.
But as long as we approve this thing, then it goes to finance, and by that time, hopefully you'll have the 3 quotes and be able to figure out what you
Where-
want to put on the budget.
Right.
And I was talking to Gabe on this, and she did mention that, of course, this can come out of free cash. Because God knows we have enough free cash.
Yeah, most likely
It
that's
could be a
what we
raise and
do.
appropriate from free cash, which would be, because it's relatively small,
Okay.
but it's, to me, as somebody who works here, it's critical.
hmm
I mean, nothing to do with the elevator, but I'm worried about it not going off or telling us there's a problem.
Right. No, this is, we all agree. And if, within a week, you'll see our spreadsheet, and you'll see that,
Yeah.
that all the other carbon, heat, and smoke detectors in the old part of the building need to be upgraded,
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
connected.
Well,
So
that's
in
good.
other words, yeah, 'cause if you have a battery operated smoke detector and something happens at night, only the neighbors are going to hear that.
Yeah,
Where
exactly.
it's not going to be central. So that's what our goal is. So we're going to work hard on that next week to try to get a couple of contractors, and we'll
Great.
see where you go, and I'll keep you in the loop. And you'll
Okay.
see our spreadsheet on the buildings.
I don't know that I want to, but anyway.
Yeah.
There's no figure. First of all, you understand the amount of work that Stephen Dalmas has put into this is mind-boggling. So we fixed things on the way, and we've given you a list of what we're prioritizing is electrical upgrades in these buildings. And that will be coming out of the money that we have banked in our account. So we've already got that money, so we don't need any major capital right now. And we don't see any major capital things going forward. So the biggest one was a school, and we spent a lot of money on the school in the last few years, and it looks fantastic. So
Well, I thank you, gentlemen, for all the work you have done on this. I know it's an amazing project.
mhm.
I've seen some of your spreadsheets, and it's just like, oh, wow.
And it's very important work.
And it's about time, and
Yeah.
I'm really thrilled. The description of this particular thing in this Fire Equipment Incorporated, quote, replace existing conventional fire alarm system with an addressable fire alarm system due to intermediate elevator recall activations. The administrator needs a quote sent ASAP. But anyway, so that's basically what they're calling
Right.
the scope of service.
And so I think we can do something and try to get 1 or 2 more bids.
Yeah, oh, no, I agree with you, but that's for the gentleman, if they hadn't read, or really, if they glanced over probably what was going to go on and didn't read the fine print. But that's in the fine print there as to what the scope of services was.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, okay, so we have a motion on the floor to send this forward with a yes to the finance committee. Any further discussion? Okay, let's vote.
Urbanitis, yes.
Yes.
Rhodes, yes.
Longcoat, yes.
Okay, yes. Okay, so that's unanimous.
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Well, thank you
Well,
very
Frank.
much for all your work, Frank.
Appreciate it.
And I'll be interested to see your thing. And incidentally, the closet has been cleaned. No, seriously, I was able to dispose of all those old tax bills. I
Oh,
got
good,
permission
good, good.
from the state,
Yep.
and they went out today.
Thank
So,
you.
yes, so now it's clean. Okay, so the next thing on our agenda, I don't think we have any more motions, and we're running early. I realize, but I don't know about you all, but I've had a busy day and want to
Early
call
is good.
quits. Huh? Well, not
Early is good.
necessarily unless somebody was going to come in on it. But okay, so the next thing was to approve the minutes, and admittedly, I have not had time to listen to the tape of last time's meeting. So I will try to have it and get it out to you so we can do some kind of either a quick Zoom where you can email me with approval or not, and therefore I can get it to the town clerk.
Okay.
So, and we'll also, now this should be our last meeting, if I'm
Well-
not mistaken. Yes, George.
Well, it depends on whether, yeah, right. It could be our last meeting. I wanted to ask about the long-range planning that we should be doing and the
Mm.
schedule that we've been talking about for future. I know in the past, the numbers just seem to get stale real quick.
Well, they
And,
do, yeah.
getting the timing right, is that a project we want to take on? Do we want to try and resurrect that? And
Theoretically, I think we're supposed to under what a capital planning committee does.
because that would, I think that would be useful. And
I think we're going to have to do it. But I think what we're going to have to do, I will speak to, Gabe's going to be in tomorrow. So I will speak to her about getting all the requests that came in, because all the departments were supposed to list on the bottom of their budget request or on the separate document what they have proposed for the next 5 years. So if we can at least get that, that will give us a start as to where we're going. So assuming she has it, then we'll be all set to actually do that, start doing that. And I'll put it together in a spreadsheet and we can look at it. If she doesn't have it, then we'll have to go out to the departments and say, sorry, but would you please complete this again? So that we could then create do we want to go out 5 years or 10 years is the next question. Knowing that the months change drastically just from year to year, much less, 5
you
years. Go ahead.
I almost want to, beyond a certain point, don't even put a dollar amount in, just put something that indicates that this piece of equipment may need repairing, replacing at that point in time.
I think I agree with you.
When we were at so Bob and I were at the capital planning best practices.
Oh,
meeting.
yeah, I couldn't, for those people, somebody gave me the name of who to contact. I tried contacting her, she never got back to me, so I couldn't attend. But go ahead, how did it go?
Every town uses that schedule. They all have one. And I know it's been a concern. I've heard that it's been a concern for us in that sometimes somebody sees a piece of equipment on there and says, oh, it's time for me to replace my truck. Well, what's your truck like? Oh, it's good. I use it every day. And it's like, well, does it need replacing? Well, it says here it's time to replace it. So I know that's a potential issue, but it's easier for me to plan out. I like to think about what are we going to finance and when, because we're always trying to manage the debt service in the budget. And so, spreading these things out and knowing what we're facing is helpful.
I think one of the things we have to tell people right off the bat is it is a guesstimate at best as to when things are going to have to be replaced. Things have to be replaced earlier because of various issues. Some can go another year or two without being replaced. But I think this is something people have to realize, that it's not set in stone just because we say it's going to be replaced in 2027. Well, it may go 2028 or 29, or it may even go back to 26. You never know. And this is what we have to let people know, that, if they have a need of something that is on the schedule for later, and it's enough of a need so it really has to be replaced, then come to us and tell us. Because you're right. Some people think because it's on the list for that year, it has to be that year. No, it was that way in order to spread things out, so you didn't have a $750,000 fire truck coming in the same year as a $300,000 grader. I remember that, and I remember looking at those and saying, oh, this year we're gonna hit this and this and this, and that was, well over $1 million. And so at that point, it was like, okay, now we've got to consider how to really do this. And, so it doesn't hit 1 year when you have a huge amount of capital. So yeah, I think at this point, I will check with Gabe tomorrow, see if she had, assuming she's in, because as she said, she isn't feeling well. But if she's in, ask her about if she has those documents from the budget request. Did the finance committee by any chance get the requests? I'm trying to track down who might have this kind of document. Okay, Bob?
Yeah, I just think we should meet with the new town administrator, discuss this issue with her because she's the one who's taking over that role. And this is part of her job, is to work with capital planning and the finance committee on these matters. So, and I think maybe then we should maybe convene a meeting, but let's let her get established here at town hall. I know we're having a big drinking party on Monday. I'm not sure I can make it.
Tuesday
Tuesday.
at 10 in the morning.
Tuesday.
10 in the morning is a little early for beers.
For drinking. Let's not try that.
But anyway, yeah, so maybe once she gets settled in a little bit, we could discuss this with her.
But we can at least start doing a
then,
chart.
because we're in a transition right now at this moment, so,
But if we at least can locate the list of requests, that's a good start for us. And then we can put in what everybody thinks the year is going to be, because they should have said.
I should be able to dig that up out of my files for every year.
Yeah, Bob, I thought you sent something. I thought you did.
I think I might have, but I can go through my files and.
Yeah, I've gone through mine and can't find it.
AJ sent something too.
And
Yeah,
I asked AJ if he had a copy, and he didn't seem to think so.
I know somebody that can do a spreadsheet for us. I don't know who it might be. But,
Yeah,
George,
here
you
it
can
is.
do it, I can do it, a lot of us can do spreadsheets.
That's right. Here it is. Yeah, so it's capital planning improvement plan, and it's got years across the top, and it's got equipment down the left-hand side.
Mhm.
Yeah, but Bob, you or AJ sent this to me.
Yeah, right. I think I did. So.
And I've been trying to get a
I'll
copy.
forward this to you, Ellen. This is the
Thank you.
starting point.
Yeah,
In
good.
fact, this is where I saw it. I saw grader on here for $90,000. There it is, Caterpillar grader for 2029, by the way. So we're 4 years early at $90,000. I think the
And
first thing I would
and
say,
4 times as much.
the first thing I would say is we should put inflation factors on this, and
I've done
every number should be inflated by the number of years we're going out, compounded for that.
Hey, don't worry, America's going to be make America make American
Go
great
there.
again.
No politics, please, gentlemen.
Oh my God.
But we still have to realize that any number, it's almost good not to put a number in, frankly.
I think you get to a certain point, you shouldn't.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with
Just
you.
a placeholder, just, note that it's there. Maybe note what the value was in 2025. I don't know. We'll figure that out. We'll use our,
Well, that we could do. We could actually find out the value or the price in fiscal 26 of anything that may be on there and start with that anyway in that year. So we know, value 2026, blah, 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 or cost. And then,
or we could, again, use inflation factors,
Yeah, we
anything you
could.
put in 2027, 1.03, beyond that, 1.06, 1.09, and just keep doing that,
yeah,
depending on what factors we decide to use. And at
Right.
least gives us a more reasonable estimate of the cost.
yeah.
Because this is a
But-
shocker. I mean, if you're going by this schedule, yeah, you're right. 3 times as much, more than 3 times as much.
Almost 4.
5 times.
4 times.
Four
Yeah.
times. At
90 times 5 is
360.
450, which is what we're
Yeah,
talking.
yeah, right. I'm thinking 330, but it could be anywhere from 350 to 400.
Exactly.
4 times. It's nuts.
So can we go? Can I go home now? Or?
Yeah.
So
Bob
do we
doesn't
need to
yet.
meet to approve the minutes?
did discuss
You
it.
weren't paying attention, George. I said I have not prepared them yet. I will send them out to you.
Oh, and then you'll schedule a meeting then.
Well, do you want to schedule a meeting now? We could.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Okay, let me go get my phone, which has my
Just so I can plan.
world in. If you send us that, that'll give us a start, but I think before we put in either anything for any year, we really ought to contact the department heads involved in saying, is this still where you want it? Or get a copy of what they
We
requested.
could send them their piece.
I'm sorry?
We could send them their piece of the.
Yeah, I
schedule.
think that's a good idea. Okay, wait a minute, let me find, oh, come on. Okay. Where's my calendar? My calendar has disappeared here. There. That's not what I wanted. Okay, let's start with the approximate date. Gentlemen, Thursdays are good for you?
The 10th or the 17th are good for me.
I
Okay,
can't be here the 17th. I won't be in town. But I don't think I'll be attached to internet either.
Yeah, 17th, I have a school committee meeting that night. So
Okay, so that's out.
And I can't make the 24th
Okay.
or the 1st of May. Both those Thursdays are,
10th isn't good for me.
I got a lot of travel at the end of this month.
Okay. How about some other day other than
April 10th?
April?
Do you have
No,
them in
April 10th, I'm
sometime?
tied up.
How about Wednesday?
another Tuesday. Is that
Tuesday the 15th, I think would work. We don't have a FinCom meeting that Tuesday.
I'm tied up.
That's tax
I'm
day. It's
in
a
my
big
tie
day
up
for Ellen.
season.
tax day?
Yeah, I know. I don't care about tax day.
How
I've
about
got something else scheduled.
Wednesday the 16th?
I'm
16th?
out of town. 16th to the 20th.
Somebody said they were going to be out of town.
How
I
about,
I can't do Wednesdays at this time.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay. You can't do
how
Wednesdays.
about Monday the 14th or the 21st?
14th, I have a 5 p.m. meeting.
Well,
Which
we're
is
busy.
going
We're busy.
going to last how long?
Mondays I have a 5 p.m.
Oh,
meeting.
okay.
Well, how about, can we meet in the morning?
Sure, I'm here.
I mean, I can meet anytime.
Yes, so can I, because I'm here. As long as I don't have
Those
an
of us
appointment in the
who-
afternoon.
I wish I could.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Well,
Unless
if
you
wanna-
want a screaming kid, I might have a screaming kid in my face the whole time. But
Well, I mean, approving minutes is a pretty quick thing.
Yeah, I'm
to
not
do.
worried
I
about
thought
that.
we were
I'm
gonna
worried
do that
about
over
going over
email.
the chart.
we're gonna do
But
that.
I think you
over
have to have
email.
a vote. You have to have a meeting with a vote.
Okay.
Okay, going over minutes, that could be easy. Just give me a little bit of time to listen to it and create it.
And let's
And-
do a morning,
okay.
whatever we can do. Let's just do it it'll take 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
it
if we're doing
literally
that.
would. I mean, especially because we can all read them and we'll all have our edits ready to talk about.
So when will you have them ready, Ellen, do you think?
I can do it this weekend, so we can, if you
let's
want
do it
just a
next
very
Thursday.
short meeting, we can do it the 10th.
The 10th, at what time?
9
6
a.m.
o'clock, is that okay
9
with
a.m.?
everybody?
Well, I
Pardon?
thought somebody couldn't make the evening.
Yeah, okay.
9 a.m.?
9 a.m.?
Real
9
quick.
a.m.
No. Nate, is that,
Yeah,
are you thinking ahead, yes or
do it.
no?
let's do it.
9 a.m. on the 10th.
And we'll
And
be
the
done
agenda
by
will just be to
9:15
approve-
at the latest.
Okay, well, we can do 9 because I get here earlier than that anyway. On the 10th. And the purpose is to approve minutes of last 2 meetings. And that's all we're gonna do. Is that anything else you want on the agenda?
Nope.
Okay. Then I will set that up.
Great.
Anything else to discuss?
Nope, not for me.
Okay.
Make a
Then
motion
can
to
I-
adjourn.
Bob's in a hurry.
I want to
Yeah.
eat.
I'll second that.
He
Bob.
hasn't eaten. He hasn't eaten. Okay, then, and all those in favor?
All right, side.
Oh, wait, I need a motion to adjourn.
I made one and George seconded it.
Yes, we already did.
Bob
Overnight side.
and George.
Grove's eye, or Broad, sorry.
But we don't have to go alphabetically.
Long coat by.
Well,
Yeah,
Bob goes after me in FinCom. That's why.
okay, okay. So
Bye-bye.
gentlemen, I will set up the meeting for the 10th.
Great. See you all later.
Thank
Yeah.
you so
Night,
much.
all.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Good night. Have a good weekend.
You too.